What is up, my friends? Today me and Rick are here to give you the ultimate buyer's guide for an electric cooler. What's an electric cooler, you might ask? Well, it is a cooler that runs on electricity. It's kind of a newer feature that we're seeing in the camping space. They've been using them for a long time in RVing, but now it's becoming popular for people to have these out on all sorts of occasions.
Exactly, and this whole saga started because I went to Costco to buy some drinks. And while I was there, I saw that they had an electric cooler for sale. I'd seen one a couple of years ago, a family member owned, and was like, that is super cool for road trips. And honestly, kind of as a backup, I'm kind of justifying this as a preparedness thing. It's a preparedness channel.
Trying to justify.
By the way, making this video is part of my justification for buying this because it was like, you know, I can make this a business expense. Anyway, don't tell the IRS. So back to the story. I thought that is a cool thing, super useful for road trips, but also a good backup solution for power outages and stuff. It's gonna use less power. I can power it with the Jackery, you know, great. So I saw this there and I bought it. Put it in the back of my car, brought it home. It's super exciting. This is made by Igloo. It's dual zone. So I've got literally, I can have a refrigerator and a freezer. Both sides can be both, so I can have them both set as kind of refrigerator, both as a freezer, or I can set two completely different temperatures. I took this on a little road trip, super handy because I was able to have my drinks on one side. I was helping somebody move, so lots of work, warm day, right? So I had good drinks on one side, and then I had my Fun Pops on the other side because, you know, for the kids, except I didn't bring my kids on that trip. So, but when I'm doing hard work or when I'm getting dehydrated, I find that something that's got some flavor to it, something that's got some electrolytes and some replacement carbs, basically Otter Pops, are awesome.
Yeah.
Because they cool you down and they, I don't know, they do more for me when I'm feeling dehydrated than just pure water. So
definitely keep me and the kids
handy.
motivated.
I'm not gonna lie, I also took a quart of ice cream with me too. So there was that.
So it worked out pretty well for the trip?
It worked out awesome. This thing can run on DC power. It's got cigarette lighter adapter. Basically, just plug it straight in the cigarette lighter, plug it in, and it runs. Or it's got a separate spot where you plug in just a regular AC outlet, 110 volt. So it's pretty fantastic, but it only runs when it's plugged in. But it runs really well. In fact, I did run a little test. This was indoors with nothing in it, but I set the temperature to 0 degrees. It said it was 0 degrees, but when I opened it up and pulled the thermometer out from inside, it had gotten down to -10. So it just shows you the capability of what it can do. So anyway, Igloo makes a really good electric cooler.
Nice. Now we got this guy here in the middle. This is one that my buddy purchased and he's been a big fan of it. I showed him the one that I got and he thought that this size would be a much better fit for his family. He's got 2 little girls and they like to do family road trips. So this seemed to be the right size for him. And similar but different from Ricky's, it has 2 different storage compartments in it, but it's only one zone. So it's really just one temperature for the entire area. It does have this cool little divider that you can pull out that doubles as a cutting board. So little added utility, but just little features. But you set this to one zone for the whole thing and it was very efficient, worked great for him. Now, I got this bad boy for myself. It's about half the size of this. This is 53 quarts.
This one's 83.
83.
That one's 24.
24 quarts. So much smaller than these other ones. But the reason I wanted one this size is because I wanted one that was as efficient as possible. So if I took this on a 3 or 4 day outing, I wouldn't need a whole lot of extra power or need to run my vehicle in order to keep my stuff frozen.
In fact, you found that on what, our 600 watt solar battery with a 100 watt panel,
I was able to run it indefinitely. I ran it 3 days in a row in triple digit heat and the panels were able to pick up as much power as this needed to run, even through the night. So it would store up enough power to keep this running, even when there was no sun charging my battery.
Pretty cool.
Pretty awesome. So I really like the efficiency of this guy. And this one has a feature unique to, you know, just this one. This also runs on a third option, a battery powered, still electricity, but it has its own onboard power source. So it doesn't have to be plugged into the wall, it doesn't need to be plugged into the vehicle, and it can still run for up to 6 hours just on this separate battery.
And that is super handy because, like, think about on a road trip. You're driving And so you're powering it, but then you stop to fill up with gas.
Or to go on a hike.
Or what about overnight? That can run for 6 hours. It's not quite overnight, but it's going to go 6 hours before it has to rely on just the insulation capabilities.
And really it demands on the load that this has to run at. If it's a cold night, which in Idaho we tend to get, our temperature drops in the night, it won't have to actually use that much power over that night. So it might not be running for really 6 hours. It might be running for an hour here, off for 2 hours there. So you can really stretch that if you put this in the right environment, not in direct sunlight.
So that's a really great feature. But I think we got to talk a little bit about the different brands for a second here, because Igloo's been making coolers forever.
Yeah.
It's a name brand.
Right.
I mean, who's ever heard of Euhomy?
Now my homie.
Right? So, I mean, doesn't that make this probably a better cooler, maybe more trustworthy here?
You know, as we were looking into these, you know, you bought this bad boy and we were super stoked about it, but we had to go on Amazon and do some comparisons to see what else is on the market. And Euhomy actually has a huge lineup and all available on Amazon. And when we were comparing the features and the price point of these compared to the other ones on the market, these were far and above a better value. You know, and we actually have this fridge at work.
Right, a drink refrigerator.
We've had for a long time and works great. Didn't even realize it's Euhomy. Euhomy's been making small refrigerators for a long, long time.
Yeah, in fact, that's like their specialty. If you go to the Euhomy store on Amazon, it's not just electric coolers, it's all small refrigerators. Mm-hmm. So refrigerators is kind of their game. It's
kind of their game. You know, they're making these small compressors for a long time. And when thinking about the components that go into an electric cooler, I'm pretty sure that compressor is a lot more complicated to produce than the plastic body and the insulative parts of a cooler. I think that that's the thing that is going to be harder for a company to nail down and do well. And where they've been doing it for so long, they're able to do it more efficiently than other companies. They're not having to go to other companies to make their compressors for them. That's just a huge leg up that Euhomy has right out of the
gate. They don't get to charge you for the name brand.
And they don't get to charge you for the name brand. So that leads us to our third point. Price point.
Yeah, price point. I mean, this one, for a refrigerator, I think is reasonably priced. It was only $750 at Costco. We looked it up on the Igloo website, and it was, I don't remember exactly how much, but it was substantially more. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we got a steal at Costco for only $750.
Right.
So,
but let's compare that to this bad boy. We have 83 quarts in this one, 53 quarts in this one. Mm-hmm. How much do you think this one would cost?
Like $500?
About half that.
Really?
Really?
$250.
Absolutely. Wasn't it $240? $240 is what this one ended up costing.
Okay, that's a deal. That's a great deal.
Well, and even when you compare it to other ones out on the market, I have a Yeti that was over $300.
just for a cooler. Just for a cooler. Doesn't actually cool. It just holds in the cool.
Right, exactly. Now, let's talk about this third one. Now, this little guy, the cooler, it's only $150. Now, you will want the battery that goes with it, because otherwise this is a lot of wasted space.
Right.
The battery was $170. So all in all, $320 for this whole setup, where this one was only $240.
Pretty good deal.
Pretty good deal.
Now for me, what my family's typically done on road trips is we've just taken I've got a Coleman cooler at home that we've been using for several years. That's a 55 quart, so within a couple quarts of this one, right? I bought this one thinking it was about the same size because I didn't remember how big that one was exactly. And this is definitely bigger. And it takes up more space, which means I have less cargo storage. I got 5 kids, which means we got a lot of luggage when we go on road trips. So something this size, this actually has almost the exact same footprint as my Coleman cooler, but it's slightly taller, which makes sense because you got to make space for that compressor.
Right.
Cool thing is that because we don't have to fill it with ice, we actually get more usable space. Even though this is 2 quarts smaller, I could probably actually fit more stuff in here. Because you might say, yeah, but ice chips kind of fill in the gaps. If you actually pack it tight, you can't get ice to fill in all the gaps. It won't cool things very efficiently. It'll just sit on the top.
Right.
So you have to leave a little bit of wiggle room. But also, not just that, we don't just do ice chips because, first of all, then I'm replacing it with ice chips all along the way, whereas I'd rather just use a container full of ice that I can basically water bottles that we freeze. And that way, like at every stop along the way, like when we stay with family members or at an Airbnb or wherever, I can throw those back in the freezer, freeze some new ones and just kind of rotate them out, and always have frozen water bottles in here. That means I always have space being taken up by these chunks of ice. The frozen water bottles also last longer than ice chips that are going to melt a lot faster. And the other cool thing, you don't end up with a big puddle of water filling the whole bottom of your cooler when you use water bottles.
Not to mention the added weight.
Yeah.
Trying to move one of
Good
those
point.
coolers with a big
once you
pool
fill
of
them
water
up
in
and
the
then
bottom,
fill them full of ice.
what a nightmare.
Yeah, they're way heavier. So anyway, this is a better solution. And the point here is though, that you can go down probably a few quarts and still fit about the same amount of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's pretty awesome.
And another cool point that you reminded me of with the frozen water bottles. When I went camping and used this recently, we use this as our freezer. And it's awesome having a freezer while camping, especially while fishing. You're able to just throw your gutted fish right in here, not have to cook it immediately. Makes it so you can take it home without it getting slimy and gross and having the wife complain. But what we're able to do with those frozen water bottles is we had a separate cooler, one of my caveman coolers, the one that doesn't cool itself. All it does is hold the cold in.
What?
Ugh, gross. But what I was able to do is I was able to freeze water bottles in this bad boy and then transfer them up over to my other cooler, and then it was able to keep that one cold. I'd then rotate the defrosted ones back into here to freeze, and we keep that cycle going to keep that other cooler refrigerated for the whole trip without having to buy ice for it.
And still have room in this one
And
for
still have room in this one.
fish or whatever else that you had frozen,
Exactly.
like popsicles or something.
Right.
Maybe Otter Pops.
You got to bring treats.
Yeah, makes things so much better. All right, but let's talk about,
Mobility.
yeah. I mean,
That
this
bad
thing's
boy's
big,
got to be a ton by the time it's filled with everything.
which
So
it currently is.
what we wanted to do is show you just how portable this is for one person to be able to move when it's at capacity. So what we did is we filled both sides of this with water bottles. That's about 2 racks from Costco. Let's see how portable that is.
So I can pick it up. I could get it, power clean it maybe, get it into the back of my car. That's about it. I'm not going to carry this. I can waddle it.
You're not going to want to carry it up a hill?
No.
Okay.
I barely want to walk up that hill.
Let alone carry
with
this thing.
Yeah, not very.
So it's
not very
liftable,
portable.
but you got to be a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
You know, Ricky's not
There's no
small.
wheels on this thing either. This is definitely a 2-person carry.
Yeah,
one on
with
each
2
handle.
people, it's much more feasible to take this across
Still
a
not
distance.
gonna be fun.
Still not fun. But let's see what the weight difference is as we move things from this to that, and also what the size difference is.
Yeah.
And you see how with these removable baskets, you can just take it out, bring this to the kitchen, put everything you need in there, and then transport it over to the cooler and put it in. A lot easier than having to bring everything, set it directly in the cooler like we do with the Igloo.
That's probably about it. So,
That's all that fits.
yep.
All right, now we moved all the water bottles from the Igloo over to this Euhomy, and to show the difference in capacity between this and that, we emptied the rest of the water bottles out of the Igloo and set them up on top.
28 water bottles and 2 cans of soda.
Less space in this Euhomy compared to that Igloo. So what was it, 30 quarts difference equals that many water bottles?
Yeah, pretty much.
We mathed it out. All right, now let's see how portable this guy is. Doing just a lift test, similar to the last one. Not too bad. I can waddle this around, no biggie. But what's awesome about this are the wheels on the side. Got a nice big handle on this side, making it so I can just roll this wherever I need it to go. If I had to take this up the hill, it'd be a whole lot easier than waddling with that big boy. So as far as mobility, I really like this setup relative to this. All right, let's see how well this one compares.
Yep.
4, 8, 12, 16, 18. So
Wait. 20. 4 times 5 is 20.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
That's why he's the engineer. All right. Now, comparing these two Euhomies, it fits 20 less bottles. What was the difference in quarts? 24 to 53?
Yeah, basically 20, 19.
So 19 quarts results in 20 less bottles in storage. Now, how much more portable is this bad boy? Nice and easy. I can even throw it up on my shoulder, so if I needed to hike a distance, this is plenty doable.
Walk it down onto the beach in the deep sand where the wheels won't work very well.
Yeah, right? Now, this is much more doable.
Plus, you don't have to carry a Jackery with you.
Already has the battery built into it.
Yeah.
Huge advantage. More expensive, but that added benefit.
That's the trade-off.
So, with that being said, all of these coolers have very different advantages. Different features to fit different needs.
They all worked incredibly well. Their power consumption was reasonable and within the same ballpark. Given this one's bigger than this one, which is bigger than that one, they're pulling similar amounts of power. They all cooled off really quickly. Basically, the main difference is what features do they have, what size are they, and how much do they cost? And I think that's something that you got to figure out for yourself exactly what it is that you're looking for.
Absolutely. So take a look at your situation, how much food, drink you're wanting to take with you, what you'd like to have with you. Euhomy also has a model that makes its own ice. So if you were going to the beach and you want to be making your own mixed drinks right there, that's a pretty cool feature in my opinion.
If that's what you want, princess, that's fine. You know? I'm just kidding.
Doesn't make as much sense for my camping scenario, but pretty cool feature nonetheless. So take a look at those features, see what's going to fit best for you. Hopefully this helped you figure out which features would be most important to you. Maybe you won't have to buy 3 to figure out exactly which one's going to work best.
And I really appreciate you spending some time with me today and helping me justify my purchase of this cooler to the IRS. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if you appreciate self-reliance and preparedness content, that's what we're all about here. So I hope you'll join us on our next video. And for now, until then, this has been Rick and Jake with Pantry Preparedness.